Hello, BookTube. This is another episode of Last Week in BookTube, where, for those of you who might be new to the channel, this is where I look back on the last week in videos that I watched and point out some things that I really liked, some highlights, make sure that I'm telling them to you and leaving the links so that if you want, you can go and check them out. It's not meant in any way to be comprehensive. I watch a lot of BookTube, and I'm sure that I miss a lot of great BookTube as well. Just stuff that I noticed that I really liked. And before we start, I wanted to offer an apology for the awful racket that you might be able to hear in the background. I don't know how good the speakers are for this iPhone. There's construction going on, obliterating the peaceful field across the street from where I live and blocking out my view of the Arnold Arboretum. So for the foreseeable future, I won't be the only obnoxious noise you hear in this video. There'll be other obnoxious droning going on. Might be hard sometimes for you to tell the two apart. But anyway, I'm hoping that I can drown it out, even though it's right across the street. But I wanted to start off with just some general things from last week in BookTube. The foremost one being VEDA, of course, Video Every Day in April, which is still marching on. Still people making videos. I've never understood the challenge here. I guess if you're only a 1 week booktuber, once a week or once every 2 weeks, it might be an unthinkable thing. But I can't help but notice, I think I noticed this last year too, that people are starting to reach the end of their creativity. Boxes being opened, a walk to the post office, that sort of thing. And I think that just makes it more fun to watch. Another big thing that happened last week in BookTube was a gigantic team up between me and Olive from ABookOlive. She came to Boston and we made videos, and it was a lot of fun. So those of you, I want to take the opportunity, those of you who are within striking distance of Boston, be it Greyhound or Amtrak or a car, feel free. The Brattle's right there. I'd be happy to host you. Well, let's see. What else we've got? Oh, yes. I saw Indie Insomniac do a response video to a video by a channel called Splitreads, which I'd never heard of. I went there and I subscribed. I urge you all to do the same. Just a fantastic channel. And the video and the response were about, why do you watch BookTube? Why are you on BookTube? And I thought that was fascinating, because I've been asking myself that question. And my reflexive answers and my more thoughtful answers have all transformed over time and keep transforming. So I think I would like nothing better than if why are you on BookTube became a viral video thing. I mean, Indie Insomniac kind of sort of made it sound like a tag, but Splitreads didn't seem to make it a tag, and I don't know how you'd make it a tag anyway, but as a meme, I would love that. I think I will make a video on my own on the same subject. And in terms of BookTube hitting the spotlight, even inadvertently, I think the first place would have to go to the Book Chemist, who put a video on his channel. It's just frankly unbelievable. It's him interviewing Michael Chabon on stage in front of an audience in Venice. and he is, among other things, a booktuber, so that was incredible. Then we have some reviews. I pay attention to reviews, and I love them even when I don't like the book. And I have a bunch here that I want to mention. PucksandPaperbacks reviewed Becky Albertalli's The Opposite of Unrequited, which is a book I hated, but her review was incredibly good. Cam at Wolfshot Publishing did review of Waiting for Doggo, but he didn't just do that. It was one of his drunken reviews. And this one wasn't just a drunken review, it was a drunken disrobing review. That's something you'll never get on this channel. It was mighty darn entertaining on his channel. That's What She Read did a review of 20 Days of Turin, a little book that I read just a few months ago, and it's been sticking with me. I was glad to see it get some attention. One Book Run Review did a review of Maggie Harcourt's Unconventional, which was, again, a book I hated, but I loved her review. And, of course, the highlight, always a happy time when you can mention it, the highlight of reviews is Alex at View from the Bar. He's continuing his Kingly Endeavor series, where he is doing a baton death march through all the books of Stephen King. And he's on Needful Things. He did, this time around, it was Needful Things. And his discussion's fantastic. I kind of wish not that I would wish this on anybody, but I kind of wish that he were doing a companion side series talking about the adaptations of all these books, because the TV adaptation of Needful Things with Max von Sydow was one of the more watchable Stephen King adaptations, in my opinion, and I'd love to know what he thinks of it. And then we have just a bunch of general things, and again, I got to mention here, and I'll leave a link for it down below, but there was a video that I mentioned last time by Courtney Pickles called BookTube Sucks, which was a parody video of BookTube. And it stuck in my head in the same way that, I don't know if some of you saw this, there was a parody video, absolutely perfect as hers, parodying TED Talks. And the way you know when a parody is perfect is when it is immediately comes to mind when you see an example of what it parodies. I couldn't watch TED Talks after that parody without giggling, and now I hardly watch them at all. That parody killed them. And the same thing is true of Courtney Pickles' video. I watched so many BookTube videos, and after her parody, I was giggling when I shouldn't have been at some of them. But so I'm trying to sort of thread my way around that as I give these, but I will leave the link down to her video again down below, because it's a work of art. It's worth your time to see. But let's see here. Ariel Bissett did a video on one of the only book-related things that I actually think is universal. One of the only things that actually, no matter what we like or don't like, gets us all squealing with girlish glee, and that is beautiful end papers. And I hadn't thought about it before, but it is one of the glues that holds all book people together. I don't know of anyone that doesn't utter a little high-pitched squee when they see a beautiful end papers, even though it should mean nothing. And also, I hate to admit it for my beloved ebooks, but they lose on this. It's one thing that printed books have that they don't. But I thought her video was really good, and it showcased you there. Also, I'll leave a link down below. And then Thoughts on Tomes did a video on what she rightly refers to as a perennial subject in the book world, which is reading Backlist versus reading new releases. She's absolutely right that BookTube tends to mimic the publishing industry in being new release centric. At least it has until now. I'm very refreshed by seeing all of the videos. BookTube, I think, is getting older, it's getting more sure of itself, it's getting a little more adult, and more people are joining who never would have thought they would. And the result of that is that you're getting an incredible variety of topics, and a lot of it is old stuff. So I think the manic fascination on new stuff, not that I'm in no position to say anything about it, since I'm unpacking new books all the time here, but again, I claim special exemption, because I'm not just fascinated by new books, they're also my job. So I'm kind of not including myself. But the it book, the thing that's going around just because it's new, then that sort of thing, I think is becoming less central to BookTube. But her video is fantastic on the personal level of, I want to read more Backlist. Like, for instance, she was talking about how she's getting more and more into adult science fiction and fantasy, and it's, as I've mentioned on this channel before, it's a horrible genre for honoring its progenitors. You go to a big new retail bookstore, and you'll see the state of affairs for how science fiction and fantasy reprints the classics on which it's based. And it's dreadful, absolutely dreadful. You can go there, you can scan those shelves, and as a person trying to learn more about adult science fiction and fantasy, and you'll come away with no conception whatsoever of the glories of the genre. Most of them aren't reprinted. Most of them aren't in print. So I thought it was fascinating, because I have a bit of that war myself. I have shelves full of Backlist, but most of my time now is taken up with new releases. So that she's right. That tension is always there. Let's see here. Books for MKs, Books for Missionary Kids, did a great rant on what happens when an author doesn't like a negative review of your book. And she talks a lot about regulations, the FTC regulations, where you have to include a disclaimer that says, I received this book free in exchange for an honest review, and how there are rules involved in that. I confess, when I was done with her video, I did a whole bunch of research on whether or not that's true, whether or not there could possibly be a rule that says you have to say you're not lying. And it turns out it's all about fair trade. It's all about, fair practices, making sure that the potential customer knows the relationship between you and whoever provided you with this product, or if there is one. And I was reading into the details, I realized why it's never come up for me, why I've never known anything about it, because the regulations are designed only when the relationship is not apparent. So if you're reviewing something for a journal that has a name right up there slapped on the masthead and you just have a byline, everyone reading what you write will assume that they know the relationship, and they'll be right, that the publisher sent the book to that larger entity, which then either let you review it or assigned it to you. Your relationship with the book is already known, which has been my relationship with books forever. On my book blog, Steve Reads, for 10 years, I've reviewed only stuff that's out of print, or that's so old you could come across it on a library sale, and I always did, and I always said where I did. So with my blog, even though it was 10 years old and had a fairly good readership, I neither saw nor got any ARCs from publishers where I would have had to make that disclaimer. So and all the rest of it has been professionally. So it's never been a case for me where I've had to know that. And watching her video, it made me realize that that's a minority, and that most people do. They're out there on their own. They're out there with their own blog, their own Instagram channel, their own BookTube channel. Publishers approach them, but there's no supervening larger entity under whose aegis they're working. So they're out on their own. There's them and the book's author. And the more I thought about it, the more scary that seemed. No wonder there are rules in place. And what do you do when an author is just keeping at you, saying, "Look, your negative review of my book is up there. It's not the Wall Street Journal's negative review. It's your negative review, and I'd really like you to take it down. You're hurting my sales." and her video, you know that someone is in ranting gold when they use the phrase "till my dying day," and she does. So definitely go and see it. And Jenna Moreci, who's got to be BookTube's most famous self-published author, did a video on writer's block, and when I saw it, I was worried, because so much BS gets said about writer's block, and I thought, well, here's someone who I watch her channel specifically because she doesn't seem to have any cellular capability for BS. I don't know how she gets through life that way, but she certainly doesn't do it in her videos. And I thought, oh my God, are you going to let me down? Are you going to BS on the subject that needs it the least? But no, no. Her video on writer's block was pretty much perfect. Especially the parts about how to fix it, which is that, it means just write, just do it, just make yourself do it. As she says, you have access to paper and a keyboard, so you can write. But one of the points she made in that video that I really liked was making writing a habit. She's absolutely right in saying that if you do that, if you make it part of your daily routine, it will eliminate writer's block. You pretty much won't have it. If it's part of what you do every day, nobody gets, she didn't put it this way, but I have in the past said, nobody gets breakfast block. If you make it a part of what you do every day, then you'll be grappling with the mechanics of it anymore. You won't have any vapor lock on the higher levels. It won't be, oh my God, I can't write today. It'll be, other things. But that was really good. And she's right when she says that it takes time to make repetition into a habit. It takes time for that to do it. So you should do it until it does. If you're serious about writing, then you should make it into a habit. Something that, as she put it, your day doesn't feel right unless you've done it. If you get to that point, you'll be fine, and you won't be talking about writer's block anymore. It's one of the reasons that I disdain the whole thing, because I can't imagine a day without writing. And that once you get to that point, you're going to be fine. But if we have to pick a winner for BookTube. Again, this isn't a contest. I don't mean anything in videos. But if we have to pick a winner, I'm afraid it would go to Just Juan Reader, who invented a tag called the musicals tag. And he did, it's going to be a huge thing. It's going to be like 20 questions. And he did the first part. And it's just a whole video of him singing to you. I mean, he stops and he asks and he answers questions. But it's mostly his wonderful singing. Who can do that? There are only a couple of booktubers who could manage to pull that off. It was incredible. And I was watching it, and I was listening to it, and I was thinking, all of these book suggestions, but also all of these musical suggestions, and all for free. So what a way to start the day. So I'll leave a link. You should definitely watch it. And in terms of extracurricular, I end these segments with an extracurricular a bit that isn't BookTube, but I still want to recommend. And it's... I don't know if any of you ever saw the dumb Adam Sandler movie Happy Gilmore, where he plays a golfer with anger issues. And it's a terrible movie and it's boring, but the great moment, the great sequence in that movie is when he angers game show host Bob Barker, and they fight on the golf course. And there's never any doubt who's going to win. And for charity, they just recently did a rematch. This time the fight takes place in a hospital room, and it's just glorious. Just glorious. So I'm going to leave both of them down below, clips to both of them down below, so that if you somehow haven't seen the first one, you can glory in that and then see the rematch. And if you've seen the first one, but you haven't seen the rematch, well, there you go. And that's it. That is Last Week in BookTube. And I'll be back to tedious book nattering in no time at all. Thank you, BookTube.